Hello everyone, we are from Group 9 and the group consists of me, Nadia, and also my friends, Danes, Jihad, and also Audit. And from this video, we will show you our presentation about the assignment 4 that has been given by Pak Gunggu from ILOC. And also, the assignments consist of two main topics, which are the comparison between the OLAP and also OLTP, and the second one is about the Big Bang approach versus the phase-in approach. So we will move on to the first topic of our discussion, which is the OLAP versus the OLTP. The OLAP itself stands for the Online Analytical Processing, and it consists of software tools that are used for data analysis mainly for the business decisions making. Usually, the users of the OLAP are the business analyst, the manager, the executive for analysis and reporting purposes. The OLAP also allows the database information extraction from multiple databases, while for the OLTP, it stands for the Online Transaction Processing. So it manages transaction-oriented applications on the internet in a three-tier architecture. The use of the OLTP is to manage day-to-day transactions of an organization, and usually the users are the end users such as the DBA and also the database professional. Next, I'm going to explain some key differences between OLAP and also OLTP. So as I mentioned earlier, OLAP is a category of software tools that analyze data stored in a database, whereas the OLTP supports the transaction-oriented applications in a three-tier architecture. The second key differences is that the OLAP it creates a single platform for all type of business analysis, which includes the planning, budgeting, forecasting, and also analysis. While for the OLTP, it's very useful to administer day-to-day transactions of an organization. Next, the OLAP is characterized by a large volume of data, while for the OLTP, it is characterized by large numbers of short online transactions. And the last one is that in OLAP, the data warehouse is created uniquely so that it can integrate different data sources for building a consolidated database, whereas the OLTP, it used the traditional database management system. Now we will discuss about the first case of the assignment, and the question is that for each of the following process, we must state whether the online transaction processing or the online analytical processing is appropriate and why. So we will begin with the point A. It is stated that an order entry system that retrieves the customer information, invoice information, and also inventory information for local sales. So in this case, based on this information, our group think that the OLTP or the online transaction processing model will be the most suitable model for this case because the order entry system that is mentioned is used to handle the day-to-day transactions that occur in a business in a current time frame, such as they collect the customer information and the invoice information and also the inventory information, and the data are isolated. And the other reason why our group think that OLTP is more appropriate rather than the OLAP is because they only have a a few number of elements. Thus, the queries for the system will be simpler and it is much shorter. Moving on to point B, an order entry system that retrieves the customer information, invoice information, inventory information, and several years of sales information about both the customer and the inventory systems. So in this case, we consider the online analytical processing is more appropriate, mainly because it is stated that they will use the sales information from the customer and also the inventory items in a long period of time. And this kind of time frame shows us that the data that they collect should be consistent, both in the form of the information itself as well as in the calculations, because they need to get process for several years, and because they use the data for a long period of time and they need consistency in data, we think that the OLAP will be more useful for this case. Next, for the point C, an order entry system that retrieves customer information, invoice information, inventory information, and information to compare the current sale to sales across several geographic regions. So in this case, we also think that OLAP, or the online analytical processing model, is more appropriate because as we can see here, the main point is to compare the current sale to the sales across the several geographic regions. Thus, our focus is to know and to analyze our sales number, which again needs more consistency of information and also calculations. So OLAP is the best choice compared to the OLTP because in OLAP, as I mentioned in the earlier of this video, consists of software tools to help the business in making their decision. So when we are trying to compare the data, it means that we also analyze the data, and the source of the data can be coming from multiple databases. That is why we choose OLAP instead of OLTP in this case. So that's all from me. The next case will be explained by my friend Danes.
Next is point D. For an order entry system, relative customer information, invoice information, inventory information, and account receivable information for sales within one marketing region, we suggest OLTP. The reason is, from the case, the system needed is a system that focuses more on helping business process rather than analytical system of the data. Furthermore, data will be constantly updated every time a new entry is happen. That's why OLTP going to be the better option. For the point E, if an insurance company require a system that will allow it to determine total claim by region, determine whether a relationship exists between claims and chronological phenomenon, and why one region being more profitable than another, we recommend using OLAP. It is obvious that the company aim for a system that able to analyze big data to better their business decision. Not only that, consistency is also needed in the system calculation for comparing one region performance to another. Last but not least, Point F. A manufacturing company has only one factory, but that factory employs several thousand people and has nearly $1 billion in revenue each year. The company has seen no reason to make a comparison between its operation from year to year or from prior operation to operation. Examination of prior year financial reports have shown that the company, while profitable, is not growing and returning on investment is decreasing. The owner are not satisfied with the situation. In this situation, we suggest using OLAP. The company will benefit more with a system that can analyze the company's current situation. Although there is a case to be made for the use of OLTP that can help the business process, but we believe OLTP will give the company more benefit since the data being come back is a report. Furthermore, OLTP able to process big amount of multi-dimensional data from the prior year.
Now let's move on to the advantages of the Big Bang approach. There are three advantages of the Big Bang approach. The first one is the change on the system is at a date that is clear for everyone. Next, the training is conducted only for new function of the system and no special interface that needs to be familiarized after the new system is being installed. Next is the advantages of the phase-in approach. In the phase-in approach, installation is done only when required and in small units. Different from the Big Bang approach, in this approach training is not required and users have longer time to adapt to the changes.
Okay, so now moving on to the disadvantages of the Big Bang approach and the phase approach. So both approaches have their advantages and its disadvantages. However, it's important to point out that an implementation strategy doesn't have to be limited to these two options. Sometimes a Big Bang approach can be used to implement a must-have functionality within the core modules. Follow up with a phase implementation of a nice-to-have functionality and the implementation of non-core modules such as document management, business intelligence, and maintenance management. All of the implementation options should be explored in details to be considered. Okay, so now the disadvantages of a Big Bang approach. First, sudden drastic changeover may occur when implementing the approach. Second, when implementing a new system, a lot of pressure may occur due to the given deadline that will give pressure while implementing the approach. The third, after implementing Big Bang, the fallback plans become impossible. Now, disadvantages of phase-in approach. First, working on an old and new system will cause confusing for the worker because this is potentially one of the most problematic areas for phase implementations. If you introduce the new system piecemeal fashion, then you have to work out how the new system and old system will work together for a period of time. This can involve creating interfaces that would not be needed if all modules were introduced at once, as well as creating user documentation and standard operating procedure or SOPs that will cover how business processes operate in the interim period. And then for the second, new changes must be updated inside the system. And then the third, adjustment will be needed after implementing the system. So that's all from us from group 9. Thank you.